This and that and what the fuck else, episode 84. In this one I'm going to talk about a little bit about China, the pestilence, the Donbass, the energy problems, and there's a what the fuck that will make you, if you're a decent human being, it will make you very sick to look at it. So for the faint-hearted, this what the fuck is not the right one. But that's the story. Before I start, I just want to give a little bit of an update on the Kherson issue. That has been the hot topic, and there's a few people that are quite upset about it. And there are guys that are disturbed, and there are guys that are worried, and then there are those that are jubilating, which is good. A small thing to say. I see the Ukrainians are making a big story of their arrival in Kherson, and they are promoting it as a win for the Ukraine. Now I've got a question. How did you win it back? How many Russians did you kill to get it back? How many Russian equipment did you destroy to get it back? As far as I can see, nothing. You walked into an empty city. But now for the jackpot question. How many men did the Ukraine lose in the past week in the Kherson area? How much equipment did they use in the past week? You must just keep in mind, Russia is fighting a war of attrition here, not fighting a war for conquering territory. Russia is destroying the Ukrainian military, and they are doing a good job of it. They're doing such a good job of it that even the West is running out of weapons now. So, if you're a supporter of the Russian side, relax. This was a tactical move, and it was executed perfectly. And let's see where this is going. The Nazis, I don't know how long they're going to last. At the rate at which they're losing men and equipment, and those are things that you can never get back. The Russians can take the city back whenever they want to, but the Ukrainians can't get those men back that was killed. They can't get their equipment back that was destroyed. But enough of that. Let's look at this piece of information from China. 100 million people have been lifted out of poverty level in China in the last decade. How many have fallen below that level during the same period on your side of the planet? Western people should stop and think where their governments are leading them and who their real enemy is. And then you must look at this graph. China's pathway to poverty eradication. Number of rural residents in poverty 2012 to 2020 million. Now look at that. In 2012 it was 98.99 million people in poverty. And see how that graph is dropping. Steep and straight downward curve. Now I listened to a discussion on this, and the one commentator said that China initially started this poverty eradication in their cities and not so much in the rural areas. But the infrastructure development, the roads and the railways and things like that, obviously had an effect on the rural areas. And they, I think 2 years ago, they decided to focus a bit more on the rural areas. And it seems like it is bearing fruit. Us here living in the West, we don't have much information about China, and we are being fed bullshit by the media to suit the American narrative. They make a lot of stories about the Uyghurs, genocides and so forth. The problem with that story is, if so many people were killed there, real genocide, 1 million people, the West says, where are the graves? More important, where are the fleeing migrants? Where are they? How is it possible that that area is open? If you want to go there today, you can go there if you want. So many new schools, so many new universities, so many new things there. That territory is growing and expanding. So where is that genocide that the West is talking about? But on the other side of the coin, America. How many people did they kill in Libya? How many people did they kill in Iraq? How many people did they kill in Afghanistan? How many people did they kill in Yemen and are still killing people in Yemen? How many people did they kill in Europe? Millions. Not a word about that. And then there's this. And this is for South Africa. And I'm just putting this photograph up. And it says, look South Africa, your new friends are on their way. And this is connected to the fact that Sanral has allocated a few contracts to the Chinese. I've handled that in previous Skidmarks. And then there's this little bit of information. The first Chinese-made medium-haul aircraft and competitor to the MS-21 made its first public flight on November 8, since it received certification from the Chinese regulator. The plane took off during the Zhuhai Aerospace Show and then circled in the sky above hundreds of spectators. The C919 is a twin-engine short-haul aircraft capable of carrying between 158 and 174 passengers for a distance of up to 4,000 kilometers in the basic version. It is designed to compete with already well-established foreign models such as the Airbus A320 and the Boeing 737 MAX. China hoped that this domestically produced airliner will partially reduce its dependence on foreign manufacturers in aviation. Now, this is interesting, and this is what China is doing while the Americans are making war across the globe. And then there's this. China's trade unexpectedly declined in October amid strict COVID curbs and weakened global demand. China's exports and imports unexpectedly shrank in October as COVID control measures hit its troubled economy. Now, I have spoken about this previously. There is signs that maybe the Chinese are now going to relax that zero COVID attitude of theirs. I have said it previously. Just keep in mind, the rest of the world, the West, especially the West and America specifically, is having serious supply line problems. And there's chaos there. And I have a suspicion the Chinese is using the pestilence as an excuse to burn the Americans. And then there's this. And now we get to the pestilence. And for reasons that you guys are well aware of, I cannot read all of this for you. All I can say, online dating sites finding pure blood in high demand. And you must read it for yourself, and it is actually hilarious how things changed. A year back, it was the opposite, and this is now the reality of the time. And then we have this image, and you can look at that image, and I'm also not going to read anything from it, but it is scary, and it just shows you we've been sucker punched. And then there is this, and you should really watch this. This guy said, I have had my first hearing before a workers' compensation judge on a claim for an employer-mandated injury. The judge found sufficient evidence to proceed. Trial set for January. You can't sue that zonkers, but you can bring a claim against your employer. And I think here specifically in South Africa there's a few employers that are not going to sleep well because they are going to get sued, that's for sure. And I've said it right from the beginning. The government never mandated the thing. Never, nowhere. They didn't force anybody. But a lot of brown nosers decided they will show the government how to do. And now their day of reckoning is here. And then we have this Neil Ferguson. He was one of the guys that projected a horrific death rate from the pestilence. But look at his history. 2001 with that foot and mouth, predicted 150,000, reality less than 200. 2002 predicted 50,000, reality 177. Then in 2005 predicted 150 million, reality 282. And then in 2009 predicted 65,000, reality 457. And then you can see for the pestilence he predicted 500,000. This guy, I don't know, we've been sucker punched, that's for sure. And then there is this, and once again, I'm not free to read to you all the words, but look at that. That shit did not happen. This has not been seen in the last 150 years. These are being seen in the people who died suddenly. This is crazy, boys. This is really crazy. And then we have this. Look at that, what Scotland is reporting. 123% increase in newborn deaths. Why? Why is that? What is going on? A very legitimate question. And then we get to the Donbass. A photo of Ekaterina II with a noose in her hand and a bag on her head appeared in public in Odessa. Look at what those guys are doing to that statue. Barbarians, that's what they are. And this is interesting. The flow of volunteers in the Russian armed forces does not stop. 318,000 people have been mobilized in Russia, of which 49,000 are already performing combat missions. And they had that mobilization, but they were absolutely stunned by the number of people that volunteered. And then more on the Russian volunteers. Putin signed the law on the status of volunteer formations, assisting the Russian Federation Armed Forces as well as their members. In particular, such citizens are now covered by the status of contract servicemen. Putin is looking after the soldiers, that's for sure. And I've heard some disturbing things about what happened to soldiers in Ukraine. This image is just something interesting. That is one of the road sections that was destroyed by that bomb on the in that bridge in Crimea. And here's another image of that process, how they're fixing it. Here you can see at the bottom of the picture the two sections that was blown up, and they are now bringing the replacements in. And it's crazy for me. The Russians are repairing that bridge in about 6 weeks' time. And here, us in South Africa, that piece of pipe that came loose on that chimney, and Skidmarks going to take a year to repair it. And then we get to the energy. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. Meanwhile, in other news, a British High Court recently rejected the Venezuelan state access to its gold reserves worth $1.8 billion in the Bank of England. And that is part and parcel of things that I have spoken about. This stealing of other countries' money by the West is not going to be good for them in the long run. And here's a little bit of a bigger map. You can stop the program if you want to study that map, show you the oil reserves, the biggest crude oil reserves by country in 1 billion barrels, and it is scary. The US has got 36.5 and Canada is around 170.7. But the rest, Norway has got a drop 6.6. The UK has got 2.6. Little the drops here, but look at the big reserves. Venezuela, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Iran, Russia. They are the big oil guys. What? They're not part of the West. And then there's this photograph, obviously, I don't know, photoshopped or what, but this is a little bit actually disturbing for the Europeans. Schulz and Macron chopping wood, I don't know who's that guy at the back looking, watching to see if they do it properly. And then there was this, apparently some organization in Europe sent a lot of wood-burning stoves to the Ukraine, and the Ukraine were not so happy about that. life-affirming music to celebrate the transfer to Ukraine by way of humanitarian aid of hundreds of small wood-burning stoves. I hope the individuals who sent these stoves to the Ukraine end up in the caveman age, having to huddle by the fire while waiting for the saber-toothed bear to kill them. Yeah. And then this is this interesting information from Jacob. In Germany in 2010, about 7,800 kilowatt hour per capita was produced. Take note, 7,800 kilowatt per hour per capita. And in 2021, 7,000 kilowatt hour per capita per year. What? That's how it reduced by 800 kilowatt hour. That spells disaster. I wonder why. I wonder if all the shutting down of those nuclear plants and coal electric plants, maybe the Greens, but they planted thousands of windmills and installed acres of solar panels, but still look at that drop. In the UK, respectively, 6,160 kilowatt hour in 2010, and look at that amazing number, 4,610 kilowatt hour in 2021. How is that? They are looking out for the future, those guys. 25% roughly reduction. Lost. Could it be the windmills? In Italy, 5,110 kilowatt hour, and now in 2021, 4,860. That is not good. And then you look at a comparison in China. In 2010, electricity production was roughly 3,400 kilowatt hour per capita. And in 2021, 6,040. This means at almost double the rate of growth that China has already surpassed Britain and Italy even in terms of per capita. Energy is the basis of any industrial civilization. The decline in electricity generation reflects deindustrialization and a rushing economy. Well, I would like to know what the figures would be for South Africa. And then there is this. And this is South Africa. And take note, in South Africa we have this situation where people, actually barbarians, steal electric cables and electric power lines, and they rip the living daylights out of infrastructure. And then you get a situation like this. A local electrical current deviation expert. This is gruesome. And that's the reality, and this happens daily. That guy was on that mast trying to steal one of those electric lines, and they sell it for scrap metal. Unfortunately, it seems to me he made a little bit of a miscalculation. And then listen to this. Western media has slammed the Uganda-Tanzania joint crude oil pipeline project, which could relieve the impact of the energy crisis on Africa. The EU has accused the two states of human rights violations and climate pollution. And fuck the EU. So Uganda and Tanzania cannot have a pipeline. This is what this West is doing. The fuckers, they operated in colonial mindset, and they raped countries of their natural resources and everything, while they built their economies and got rich. And now, they don't want those countries to grow and also become rich. No, they must stay poor peasants. I say again, fuck the EU. But they fuck themselves. They cut their oil and gas off from Russia, and now they're going to freeze. The EU is going to go back to the Stone Age, and the rest of the world is going to smile. And then we get to that what a fuck moment. And I've in an earlier Briekmerke, I spoke about the Bandera buns that they are producing in Ukraine. And now look at this shit. Butcher shop in Kiev. The sign reads, Russian orc meat. What the hell is that? Look at that! Guys, if you support that Ukrainians, you must really do some introspection. Those people are sick. And look at that. This is confirmation. That is how sick they are. And on that gruesome note, please hit me with a like and a subscribe and share everything. And thank you for your support.